right now. But the question of a moratorium on deep water drilling, should all the Gulf rigs be stopped from drilling for the near future until we figure out what went wrong?
Absolutely. Not knowing exactly what you mean by that statement, let me interpret it. If you let's go out, make sure that the blowout preventers are working properly and that there's not the sort of problem there apparently was on the Deepwater Horizon where corners were being cut, well, that should happen. But on the other hand, the National Academy of Engineers had 8 folks who reviewed the president's plan, and they strenuously disagree with the 6-month moratorium. I also find it ironic the president speaks so touchingly about his concern about the Gulf Coast economy as he's about to drive a stake in the heart of the Louisiana coastal economy by basically destroying these great paying energy jobs, letting those rigs move to other deepwater sites in other countries.
Representative, then maybe you can clarify what really matters more. Is it focusing on what you've just talked about, and I see you feel very virulently and strongly about that, or is it 11 men are dead here, and I know as we get further out from April 20th when the disaster happened, people tend to forget, although as I keep mentioning, you get on the front page of the Wall Street Journal today, there are some memos where my blood started to boil, where these guys were saying, it's okay that you use only 7 well stabilizers instead of the required 21, and don't worry, everything should be okay. That from a memo from a BP executive. So, I mean, I personally, as a taxpayer, have no problem with them going after a company like BP. I'm just wondering, what should the focus be? Should it be, hey, let's keep the drilling going, or should it be, let's make BP really pay for this?
Well, there are 2 issues there, and I don't think you have to consider them together. Those 11 people that died and their surviving family members we cannot forget. On the other hand, some of them have spoken most touchingly about the desire to not have a moratorium because they understand that the right there to make car notes and house notes will be devastating. On the other hand, I think everybody's blood is boiling about the corners that BP apparently cut. And so we can separate those issues out. You can go after BP for their culpability, at the same time preserve the supply of oil and the energy economy that allows working class families to have a lifestyle that frankly is what we as Americans expect.
Do we know how many of the rigs in the Gulf were operating in a way similar to BP so we can sort of quarantine those rigs from the rest?
There's 33 rigs being actively drilled. The CEOs of all the major offshore companies were there today, and they basically all but outright stated that BP was the only one behaving in this fashion. So BP has 7 of those rigs. As a precaution, just quarantine off BP's 7 rigs. And, by the way, MMS is supposed to have detailed plans in which MMS signs off and says this is what you're permitted to do. It appears that BP may have done some things which MMS was not permitting them to do. But that's, again, the level of regulatory oversight that can immediately be instituted. Look at the plans of these other rigs. Put an MMS person out there full-time to sign off on changes. But those are things that can be addressed.
Absolutely. Some good ideas, Representative. Thank you for joining us.
Appreciate you coming in.
Representative Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana.
Well, Doc.